Hello, welcome back. I'm Wayne. A little while back, I asked you guys to interact with me and let me know what army you wanted to see me work on next. I gave you two choices, Slaves to Darkness or SoulBlight GraveLords. Now, I didn't think anybody'd actually be that interested in the SoulBlight GraveLords, even though vampires are cool. Well, it turns out you really want to see me sink my teeth into that project. And I'm not going to complain about that, to be absolutely honest. In this video, we're going to start that off. And, well, yeah. Join me after this and we'll talk about it. Well then, as I say, we're going to look at the SoulBlight GraveLords. Now, this for me is an accidental army. Why is it an accidental army, I hear you say, Wayne? Well, not so long ago, I decided what I really wanted was Curse City. Now, I could have just picked up the entire box set, but I didn't. What I did is ended up buying all of the models individually through third-party resellers and second-hand. I've got a video about this coming up starting next year, so wait for that. By the time I'd finished painting the box set, I pretty much had a good grounding of a vampire army, the SoulBlight GraveLords. Specifically, the Varicos, is it? The werewolfy vampire ones. They're very, very cool. And so, well, with 4th edition, I've got my SoulBlight, I've got my Slaves to Darkness, which one do I want to finish off? Thinking that everybody would choose Slaves to Darkness because they're super popular in the meta right now, but, well, vampires. Vampires are cool, right? So that's what we're going to go with. This is going to be a first for me in that I'm going to do a consistent series for the next 8 weeks. 9 if you include this video. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. I realise I'm probably going to lose a number of subscribers for this. Each week I'm going to tackle a different part of the army, a different additional unit I want to add to it. And the end game is to have the army complete before Christmas so that we can start the Slaves to Darkness in the new year. And I'm going to take everything from scratch from there. Learning how to do pretty much everything. So I'll be doing basic videos on all of the other bits and pieces. That's coming up. So what's this video about then? What we're going to crack on with today? Well, I'm going to lay the groundwork for what we're going to be doing over the course of the next 8 weeks. Today, we're going to discuss the colour choices that I made, why I chose them, and what the overall aesthetic and theme of the army is going to be. With that said, let's jump on into it. Let's have a look at some diagrams. Let's figure out the colour palette, and then we can have a chat and go from there. But wait, before we do, if you're not already, do give me a subscribe. If you like this sort of content, my hobby journey, then do give me a follow. Drop me a comment. Let me know what's good, what's bad. I'm really interested in making these videos as authentic as possible and very true to my own hobby. I'm making these videos for you, but I'm also making them for me. So yeah, let me know. Let's go and talk about colour palettes, theory, and all of that. Future editing Wayne here. I'm really sorry about the quality of this video. Not this part, but when we get to where the meat of the video is. Yeah, I had problems with Premiere. The time's been against me. And I wanted to get this video out so I can actually crack on with the painting. Next time, it'll be better, I promise. Sorry guys. Back to it. The SoulBlight GraveLords are an army made up of a horde mentality. That's a lot of units are going to be zombies, skeletons, and beasts. Wolves in our case. Now, with that in mind, it is going to be quite a large force. So we don't want to take away emphasis from the major focal point of the army, which I want to be the vampires, by drawing attention to the chaff units. Yes, we still want them to look good on the tabletop, but we don't want them to be a distraction from the centerpieces. With that in mind, what we're going to do, well, we're going to have two kind of separate color palettes. We're going to go with the more muted tones for those chaff units, the skeletons, the zombies, and the wolves, and the vampires are going to have a very distinct color palette. Before we get into talking about that colour palette, let's take a look at some vampires and imagery that's admired me. A classic vampire, palish skin, red eyes, very dark. Exactly what we'd think a romanticised view of what we're going for. And then we've got an anime-like take, a Castlevania-like Dracula. I really like how it leans into the reds and the blues, but it doesn't have an animalistic vibe and the ferociousness that I want to instill in my vampires. So then, what do? Do I want the regalness of the classic vampire or the ferociousness of the more modern takes and the mythos? Well, I want a mix of both. I want the campy style of vampire that still comes across in some of the older fiction, but I definitely want that viciousness, bloodthirstiness, and the more deliberate look to what they are: killers, hunters. The 30 Days of Night vampires. These guys are terrifying. I love them. But does that lead into the lore? I want the visual to match what we see in the narrative. Now, Manfred von Carstein is the perfect example, and I came across this bit of artwork which I think really embodies what I want to capture. Terrifying, yet got some semblance of humanity still there. And I think this is the fine balance between that 30 Days of Night look and the classic, but the Warhammer take on it. So how are we going to achieve that then? After playing around with a lot of ideas as to what I wanted to do to get the contrast from the chaff units, those skeletons, zombies and werewolves, being more organic colours, browns, some muted greens, against the vampire element, I've decided on I'm going to go with a fairly classic take. So I want to have a limited colour palette and just play around with the hue and the saturation. We're going to use a red, a blue, and almost a turquoisey colour. Now that's going to be reflective of the skin. And alongside that, we're going to have a silver and a gold just for elements on the armour. How's that going to look then when we put it all together? Well, we can take a look. So obviously we'll have black and white so we can saturate, bring the lightness up and down. The lighter colour is going to be the skin, so hopefully it's got enough contrast from the blue and the red that it's going to make the elements that we want to stand out, the points of interest on all of the models, the faces, will give you a point of reference and then guide your eye around the models. I don't want to spend too much time painting each of these. As I've said, we're on a timeline and we want to get this entire army done, so I'm keeping it as simple as possible. Now, what parts are going to be red and what parts are going to be blue? That's the part that we need to figure out, isn't it? So as flesh across the board on all of us vampires will have that pale tealy turquoisey colour. The armour, on the other hand, will have a mix between reds, blues, and very dark reds coming from a black, depending on which unit it is. So we've got a strong visual theme there, and we're just going to be able to play with those different colours. Does that work? Well, I guess we're going to find out. How are we going to bring that in then to the wider army? How are we going to make the entire thing cohesive as a whole, so it looks like one consistent themed army? Well, since a lot of the models I've already got came from Cursed City, we're going to use the basing theme to tie everything together. It's a fairly simple one. All I've done in the first instance is I printed out a load of city tile bases in the first instance. So this is just some cracked stone, and I painted it all in batch. So I have an absolute shed load of these bases already done. Now, what we can do is we can easily just use those as a one and done, stick them on the base they're already painted. But what I wanted to do was break it up a little bit. Obviously, there are some elements of the army that would be better on a muddy style base. So what we're going to do is we're going to break some of those bases into bits and pieces, and we're going to glue them onto as bases and then disperse it with some mud effects, just to tie it all together, give a little bit of consistency across the entire army so that zombies look like they're part of the main force, but, you know, they're just being pulled up from the ground. And we'll try and keep the characters so they've got less mud and more of the city tile style pieces. Right then, we have a plan on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We're going to get 60 zombies done and out of the way. After that, we're going to move on to the other chaff units, which is going to be the Fellbats and some direwolves, and then we're going to start to get into the elite units. We've got 10 Blood Knights to get done that week. Now the following week is going to be the remainder of the vampires that I want to get in there. So from that, we've got the Askran Truebloods, Carolina von Carstein, one of the characters, and I've got the Vampire Warband that name escapes me, but they're all really, really cool, and we can swap those out for Vampire Lords or something if we need to. That will give us a real good body of the army, and then after that I want to sprinkle in another Legends unit in the form of the Sepulchral Guard, but we're going to do those a little bit different. They'll still fit in with the theme of the army, but I want to do something kind of fun and cool. After that, we're going to be straight on and have a Corpse Cart in there because it's got some pretty good rules, and as a buff unit, I think we do need one in there if we're going to be at all successful in even trying to play the game. And then last up, we've got a real exciting project where I've got a Nagash rescue model that I want to put on a really nice scenic base, and we've also got Manfred von Carstein that Matriarch of the Night, and that kit will actually build 3 different kits. It'll build Manfred, Neferata, and Arkan the Black. So we can seemingly magnetize all of those looking at the instructions. So we're just going to do all 3 of them, I think. Okay then, so we know what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what the timeline is. All that remains to be said is, can we actually do it? We better crack on, haven't we? We've talked about the colour palette, we know what we're going to do now, and then next week we're going to jump straight in onto the zombies, get the bulk of the army out of the way so we can concentrate on some more of the elite units and put a little bit more time into the rest of them. And that's the structure that we're going to take. We're going to get the chaff as far as possible out of the way, and then we can focus on building up nicer centerpiece models over the next few weeks in that run up to Christmas. It's going to be a bit of a red Christmas, I think, this year, isn't it? Sorry, can't help it with the jokes. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll catch you next week. Let me know what you thought. Have a great hobby week, and I'll see you next time.